Hello friends, I am Amir Anwar Nizami and today we are going to study in MATLAB coding for finding a response of a structure subjected to earthquake force. So first we will solve the how to find the response of a single degree of freedom system when earthquake forces or ground acceleration is acting, and then we will code it in the MATLAB. So first of all, we will just have a recap that in last lectures we have studied the simple and nice functions, which were the external forces were the f naught sine omega t and the exponential load. So when the function is nice, that is means we can say that it is a sinusoidal or harmonic function cos of omega t or exponential function in this. So the solution we can solve it analytically easily. Okay, easily find we can easily find the solutions. And in the last class we have found the solution very easily, that u of t where what. So first we solved the homogeneous part. So homogeneous solution we have found very easily, that right side we have just made it cu dot plus k of u equals to 0. So that was homogeneous solution, and we found out that c1 e to the power 2 roots, let's see, s1t plus c2 e to the power s2t, and plus right hand side was the sinusoidal function. So we got the sinusoidal solutions with that, and we have assumed any function such as a of sine omega t. So we got the values of a by just substituting the value in equation 1, and we found the solution. And c1 and c2 we have found out by just providing the initial conditions, that u at t equals to 0 was u naught, and u dot at t equals to 0 was u dot 0, u naught 0. So these were the solutions, and we found it, and we have plotted in on MATLAB. So we found the solutions in the MATLAB easily. But when this is not the case and the load is something different, such as mu double dot plus cu dot plus k of u equals to minus m ug double dot, this is the ground acceleration. So when this is the case, then we cannot solve in such a simple form, because this ground acceleration has a very arbitrarily varying functions. So that becomes very difficult to solve. So we will solve it in this manner, that we are having a, we can see that this is the ground acceleration, and this was the function which forcing function, which is f naught sine omega t, where we have considered f naught as 5 and omega as 3, and t is the time duration that is varying. So nicely distributed and very nice function, so we can solve it analytically. And it was the forcing function which we have assumed, that p naught e to the e exp exponential function of t. So this was the of minus t, we can say it was the function. So we have also shown this. So the solutions analytically we can solve it by these functions very easily, because it is a very nice function. We can see a well distributed function, very nicely it can be solved. But when the function forcing function is like this, so random or arbitrarily distributed, then it becomes very difficult to solve analytically. So we go for the numerical approach, because discretization should be very very small, that we can say that at this stage we have to take delta t as 0.002 or zero point zero 0.02 seconds, so that the peak and the different positions can be captured. Okay, so that's why it is a different or numerical technique we have to use for the ground acceleration when it is acting. So Analytical solution of the equation of motion for single degree of freedom system is usually not possible. When it is not possible? Because it's using not possible in two cases. So first case is if the excitation or applied force or ground acceleration varies arbitrarily with time, because it is variation is, we can see the variation is very arbitrarily. Sometimes some peak is here and another peak is here, but here we can see very well distributed, it is very well following the equation. But here it's very random and very arbitrarily. So that's why it is telling that when the applied force or ground acceleration varies arbitrarily with time, then the analytical solution is not possible. Okay. Or the second case, if the system is non-linear, that when we assume that the system, when the structure is becomes non-linear, that after linearity it becomes, because we know that it is the force and it is a displacement. So when this force and displacement curve is plotted, so up to linearity it's okay, we can say that F equals to K delta, means stiffness into displacement, and K is linear here. But and K is what, we know that the tangent to it is the K. K is the tangent to this, because if you make any theta, so tan of theta would be F by delta, F by delta. So therefore we can say that K is the slope of that. But when we just cross the linearity on, when we reach in the non-linear region, then it becomes, the stiffness gets reduced. Okay, so it becomes, K becomes itself a function of displacement, then it becomes non-linear function. Okay, so our differential equations become non-linear. So then we have to go for the numerical techniques for this non-linear system also. But even though the system may be linear but the force acting is ground acceleration, then we go for the numerical techniques. So such problems can be tackled by a numerical time stepping method. So there is one method, that is numerical stepping methods for integration of the differential equation. So we have to go for that. So one of the most important applications of theory of structural dynamics. So we study the structural dynamics, and the most important application of studying the structural dynamics is analyzing the response of structures to ground shaking caused by an earthquake. So we want to get the response, and response means we know that it is whether the displacement of the structure or velocity of the structure or the acceleration of the structure. It may be anything. So all the three are the responses of the structures when the ground shaking or ground acceleration earthquake is acting. So the ground acceleration appears on the right side of the differential equations. So we can see that it is on the left side the equation, and the right hand side is the ground acceleration, and we assume it as a external p external forces acting on it. So ground acceleration during earthquakes varies irregularly. We have seen the graph of the earthquake, that it varies very irregularly to such an extent that analytical solution of the equation of motion must be ruled out. Therefore, numerical methods are necessary to determine the structural response. So, first of all, we have to have some basics of unit impulse function, so that further we may go for the approach of numerical techniques. So what is the unit impulse? We know that when a bowler bowls and a bat touches for an instant and then ball again run away, so that instant, particular instant, was the impulse, we can say. That is the impulsive force. For a very short span of time, it hits a very large forces. So a very large force that acts for a very short duration, that acts for a very short time, but with a time integral that is a finite, is called an impulsive force. So here we can see uh, 1 by epsilon, here it's showing a value of the impulsive force, a very large force, but it's acting for a very short duration, but this short duration is some finite value, that's epsilon. Okay, so it is the impulsive force that is acting. So we can just see that what is the physical significance of this force. Physical significance, Let's understand the physical significance of unit impulse. So we always say that the structure is vibrating free vibration. Then we think that how any structure can be a free vibration. How can a structure vibrate freely if there is no force acting? Basically, what happened that if there is any structure, suppose we are assuming a single degree of freedom system, suppose it is our single degree of freedom system, so we may take two cases. We may assume that first this structure is pulled with a force, okay, and sudden what happened with a rope, and then what happened, a rope is cut from here. So what will happen, it will just vibrate left and right. So the time or the displacement at the u at t equals to 0, t equals to 0 means before cutting the rope there was some displacement u naught, that may be 5 centimeter or something we may assume. So we have given the initial displacement to it, and at that time initial velocity was 0. Okay, so we cut the rope and then it will oscillate to and fro. Okay, so that was at initially we have provided the displacement to it. Another we may give what that we just make a strike to it, we may just hit for a fraction of seconds and it will vibrate. So at that time when we hit, then we give the velocity to it, we impart the velocity on which, on the mass we apply. Then at that time the displacement was 0 at t0. So these two conditions may be there to just vibrate the structure. But in the response to impulse, what we are having these cases that our displacement is 0, that what we do, our displacement at t equals to 0, but the velocity we imply is u naught, some value we give to this. So this is the physical uh, significance of the impulse force, that the free vibration case with the initial conditions, this is the unit impulse. So let's see that at t equals to tau, we can see there is an impulse provided, and that longs for a very short duration epsilon, and the magnitude is 1 by epsilon. So when epsilon, we can say when epsilon tends to 0, when it is very small, then what will happen, then load will tends to infinite. So there must be, this value must be a finite value, so therefore it would be a very large force, impulsive force. So the solution, it is a applied force, and then the response would be h of t minus tau. So this would be the response. So how the response would occur, the response would start at t equals to tau, and it will continue. If the undamped motion is there, then it will continue, and if there is the damping, then it will diminish after some time. So thus a unit impulse at t equals to tau imparts to the mass. So it imparts to the mass the velocity we have seen, that u dot tau equals to 1 by m, and displacement as u of tau equals to 0. So a unit impulse causes a free vibration. So we have just seen that it causes a free vibration of a single degree of freedom system to initial velocity and displacement. It gives the initial condition of initial velocity and displacement given by the equation 1 and 2, which we have written here. It is the equation 1 and it is the equation 2. So our solution would be u of t would be equals to e to the power minus I omega n t minus tau u naught cos omega d t minus tau plus u naught dot plus xi omega n u naught upon omega d sin omega d t minus tau. So we will put just the value that u naught was 0. So we have considered this value u naught as 0. It was u naught equals to 0, and u dot was 1 by m. So we have just put the value here at t equals to tau, when we consider at t equals to tau basically. So that is the value here. Now at h of t minus tau equals to u of t is 1 by m omega d e to the power minus I omega n t minus tau sine of omega d t minus tau. This is the unit impulse force. So if the excitation is a unit impulse, unit means one value, ground motion based on P effective equals to minus m of delta t minus tau, means the impulsive force is acting. Here we have seen the ground acceleration complete, but we are just considering, because when our acceleration is acting, so we are just taking a unit impulse, very small impulse. Suppose this is our impulsive force, we are talking in this range only, so we are just talking about one of the impulse from there. Then u dot tau equals to minus 1, and we are just considering the value, and changes to h of t minus tau equals to minus 1 by omega d e to the power minus I omega and t minus tau sine. Here m becomes 1 only, unity. As u dot tau is minus 1 by m, so it becomes only 1, so therefore m is 1, and we will just put this value. So it is the unit impulse. Unit impulse. Now we will see the response to arbitrary force. So any arbitrary force, maybe we can see here that it's made like this, any arbitrary force, what we can do, it's a t and it is a force acting. So we can just take a lot of impulse, means that we are just segregating all the impulses here, that it may be impulse 1, it may be impulse 2, impulse 3, so that this deformation due to impulse 1, we can see from, so it would be like this. Another may be due to second impulse, third impulse, and a lot of impulse would be acting. So we can summarize and sum all the displacement due to each impulse, and that summation would give the total displacement due to the applied forces. So a force pt varying arbitrarily with time can be represented as a sequence of infinitesimally short impulses as shown in the figure below. Now, it is the response shown due to the impulse 1, impulse 2, impulse, any impulse that is, we can say tau, 4th, 5th, 6th, any position, and the total response would be due, shown as this, that when we will sum up all the responses, this plus this and all, then it will show that u of t total would be this much. So response 1 plus response 2 due to impulse 2, response due to impulse n, that would add up, and then it will give the total response u of t. Now, the response of a linear, we are talking about linear dynamic system, to one of these impulses, the one at time tau of magnitude p tau d tau is this magnitude times the unit impulse response function. So if you want to find that response at any impulse, so then what we know, that we, if there is any impulse, so unit impulse we will multiply with the unit impulse to this p tau d tau, then we will get the displacement for that impulsive force. So the response of the system at time t is the sum of the responses to all impulses up to that time. So u of t is the total response which starts from 0 to t, p tau h t minus tau d tau. This is also called convolution integral. So especially equation a, which we have named it for a single degree of freedom system, by substituting for unit impulse response function, gives Duhamel integral. So this is our Duhamel integral, which is very important. Duhamel integrals. Now, now the methods based on the interpolation of excitation function. So a highly efficient numerical procedure can be developed for linear systems by interpolating the excitation over each time interval and developing the exact solution using the methods of Duhamel's integral. So if the time intervals are short, linear interpolation is satisfactory. Means if time intervals are short, means delta t, if we are considering the discretized timing that is very small, 0.02 seconds or 0.01 seconds, then the linear interpolation is satisfactory, because when we can see that random distribution is there. So when we take a small step size, then we just see here, it may we may enlarge it, so we can just see that if the discretization is very small, then linear interpolation is easily handled, and the result would be very satisfactory. So we can see from this figure that P applied load with time, and with time is there. So this is the actual loading, and we are just seeing this area, that impulse, we are just in this impulsive force. So we have just taken that ith time, P of I is the load at this position, and Ti is the time, and Pi plus 1 is the load, and Ti plus 1 is the time duration. So the discretized is Ti plus 1 minus Ti is delta Ti. Delta Ti is T of I plus 1 minus of Ti, and Pi plus 1 minus Pi would be this much. So this would be delta Pi, we can say del Pi, which is equals to P of I plus 1, that is the total, minus Pi, minus of Pi. Okay. Now at any time tau, if we are watching in this, we are considering this as an impulse. So at any time this tau, what we see, that we can just make it here at t of I, we are having 1, this is the impulse, this is a step force, and this is ramp. So we can discretize in three parts: one impulse force, one step force, and one ramp force. This would be the our linearized, where we have just linearized the actual graph. This is, we can say, this would act as a ramp. This would act as a force, as a step force, and this force, which just it fluctuates, before that it was 0 and it just fluctuate here, it is the impulse. So when we have to find the solution at this position at Ti, then we should know about the response, how to find the response, and we can discretize three parts. We will solve the solution for the impulse, for the step, and for the ramp, all three, and we will get the solution. So before that, we are seeing that here it is P tau, that is P of I plus del Pi by del Ti into tau. It is the, we have assumed that P at any time tau, at any time tau. If you want to find here what is the value of P tau, we can say it is a function and it is P tau here. So the value of P tau would be P of I, this initial values, plus sum of this del Pi by del Ti into tau. So that is the linear interpolation values. So this is the del Pi, which is Pi plus 1 minus Pi, and these value are nothing but, we know that in the earth, when we are talking about the ground acceleration, then these are the data which we are having. We can see here it is our earthquake ground acceleration, and these data are discretized in this manner, that it is at 0 seconds the ground acceleration is this much meter second per second square, and at t equals to this second the ground acceleration is this positive, then at 0.04 second it is this value, then again at 0.06 second it is negative value. So it's at very small seconds we can see that the variation is minus, plus, plus, and minus, and so on. Its variation is like these. So very random and arbitrarily we can say that motion, ground motion is there. So we can say that at any ith point, suppose we are talking at ith point, then it would be I plus 1. Okay, so it is the pith load, then it would be Pi plus 1 load. Okay, so on p7 p8, then p8 p9. In this manner we have to get the values. So we can get the value that it is somehow, somewhere it is pi, and somewhere it would be pi plus 1, and so on. And then we will just solve the values as above we have seen here. So the ground acceleration would be solved in this manner. So let's see solving the undamped. It's an example for a very easy case we have considered to just avoid the complicacy, that if we are just ignoring the damping here, zeta or c coefficient of damping we have ignored here. So we are just considering mu double dot plus k of u equals to p tau, and external force we have considered as pi plus del pi by del ti into tau. That is the ground acceleration we are considering here. So this we will see with the initial conditions, u0 is ui and u dot 0 is u dot I. So the solution over u tau over the time interval tau equals to 0 to del ti is sum of three parts. That would be solved with the three parts. First part is impulse. Impulse. We have to solve the response for the impulse. And impulse is what we have seen. That is nothing but free vibration due to initial displacement ui and the initial velocity ui dot at tau equals to 0. And second is the response due to a step force pi with zero initial conditions. And the third is response due to ram force with zero initial conditions. So we have just shown above that what it means. Here we have seen that it was zero, nothing was there, no forces were acting, zero force. It started from here. First impulse we are considering from here for this impulse only at this zone. So first one is, this is the impulse acting at this position, and its initial condition as u0 is equals to 0, and u dot of 0 is some u dot naught. And we can say that u0 or is 0, maybe we can keep. For the step force at this point t equals to tau, we can see that initial condition is both is 0, and for ram force also at this position we are considering that the velocity and displacement both is 0. So these three we have discretized. So here it's stating that the solution u tau, if we want to find, then we have to solve for three cases: free vibration case, that is the that is the impulse case, then the response to step forces. So second is the step force we have to solve, and then third for the ramp force. So we have to solve for three conditions. So now the total response would be equals to ui cos of omega n tau plus u dot I upon omega n sin omega n tau. This is the solution we get from the free vibration case. And second, that is pi by k into 1 minus cos omega n tau. That is the response from step force. So when we solve the step force function, then we get the response or solution for the step force is this. And the third is the response to ramp force. So we get del pi by k tau by del ti minus this value with the ramp force when we have solved the ramp force. So we get the total solution. But this solution we were just considering for the undamped case. We have considered initially, we have written that our response we are just having for xi equals to 0 and c equals to 0. But in actual, when we are having the structures and we are solving for the earthquake ground acceleration, then there would be the damping. Okay, so for damping some damping coefficient will also come into existence. But for this case we will solve, and then we will later just provide the actual data for the damping. So here we have solved for u tau. Now we will just differentiate with respect to tau. So u dot tau and omega n would be common from all, so we have taken here divided by this side. And then evaluating these equations at tau equals to del ti. So at any point del ti we are solving, means if this is a thing. So we are not just getting at any midway of these two, but it is our ti and it is our ti plus 1. So del ti ith. So we are just getting at del ti, we are solving, and which is ti plus 1 minus ti, so any where in between. So that is our tau. So this gives the displacement u at I plus 1 and u dot I plus 1 at time I plus 1, because we are having our initial conditions. We know that the initial conditions we are having for it, for this impulse. Okay, so all the three ramp force and the step force, we have the all the initial conditions. So we are knowing the ui and u dot I. So therefore we need to find out u I plus 1 and u dot I plus 1. As we know also the pi we are knowing, and del pi, that is the pi plus 1, that is the load applied, we are also knowing that value, because ground, it is nothing but ground acceleration. So at all the different discretized nodes we are having that value, so it is known to us. And ui is the initial conditions, we are knowing that, and u dot I is also the initial conditions which we are knowing. So we can find this u dot tau. So that is we want to find basically ui plus 1 and u dot I plus 1 at time I plus 1. So u at I plus 1 is u of I cos omega and del ti plus these value, and u dot I plus 1 we just taken common again, and upon omega n we will solve these and we will get these value. So these equations can be written after substituting del pi. We will just put del pi here, that pi plus 1 minus pi. So and we will rearrange it, so it will become the recurrence formula. Recurrence formula means it will just repeat again and again. Why it will repeat? Because if we solve I equals to suppose 3, so we will get u3, u4 we will get, because u3 we should know for that solution. So as we will know u4, we will find out u4, then u5, to find u5 we will have the value of u4. So on all the for values from back we are having. So this would become the recurrence formula. So we can apply a loop when we will code. We can easily code it by using the for loop, that execution of the formula. So now we can see, we can have the ui plus 1 as a ui, b u dot I, c p I plus d p into I plus 1. So we are having this value, this value, this value, and this value, and a, b, c, d, all are the coefficients we are knowing these values. So we can find ui plus 1, and we can also find ui plus u dot I plus 1. So repeating the derivation above under damped systems, xi less than 1 shows that equation A also apply damped systems with the expressions of coefficients A, B, C up to D prime given below. They depend on the system parameter omega and k and xi when the damping is acting there. So on the time interval del t equals to del t I. So now we will have a MATLAB code for the recurrence formula. So first we will store the displacement in a matrix, in a vector format. So u would be equals to how much values should be there. So we will just have u0, u0, that is nothing but we can store at the first position u1, then u2, u3, and so on. It will store up to how much value, un, or we can say that how the value would be finally, it would be equals to the value of the length of the size of the earthquake. Okay, earthquake data, that if the earthquake data is suppose 400 by 1 vector, so then it would also be the displacement response would also be 4001 row and 1 column. Okay, so we can say that u would be nothing but we have just made a vector empty matrices for this, that is zeros of length of e comma 1. 1 is the one column we want, that is a column vector. Similarly v is here the velocity, that is u dot, and u dot we have just we will store a data here. We will just make an empty matrix here, that is zeros of length of e comma I, and we will run the loop for I equals to 1 is to length of e minus 1. Length of e minus 1, why we are applying? because at last of the value of the earthquake data, which we are having the last data here. So we know that we are just finding any values u of I plus 1. So if we come to the last value, then the next value is not there to find. So we will have the ith value, the loop will run just one below before the last value. So that is length of e minus 1, and u of I plus 1 would be a into u of I plus b into v of I plus c into this plus d into this. Here this multiplication is not necessary. It is here implies that if the value is 1 g, suppose, that is the unit of acceleration, then to transform it in another units, that is 386.09, it would be inch per square second. So it is a conversion unit, that's why we have multiplied with it. So there is no necessity. If this is in meter per second square, we don't have to multiply with these value. Okay. Similarly, v of I plus 1 would be a prime, b prime, c prime and d prime, where a prime is nothing but the uh, differentiation of a with respect to tau, and the coefficient in the recurrence formula would be a is there e to the power minus xi omega n del t into xi upon under root 1 minus xi square sin omega dt delta t cos omega delta t. So these are the values a b c d, a prime, b prime, c prime and d prime when we solve for the earthquake ground acceleration. And there is a undamped case when xi is lying between 0 and 1, this formula is valid. So for the undamped case, we can apply these numerical techniques and we can solve it. So before, thank you, we will just go to the MATLAB and we will see how to code it. So just wait for a minute. We will just initiate the MATLAB. And we will see how to find the response. So it is taking some time to just get opened. Let's wait. I think it's get opened. Okay. And we want to find the structure response. So here we are having a MATLAB code. So it is the E we are denoting to the earthquake ground acceleration data, which I have shown there. So E is the earthquake ground acceleration, and we can run it also if you want to run. We will run it. Error 19162. Text read. Let's run again. Let's see. Add to path. So enter the value of time period of the structure. Suppose we are just having a time period of the structure is 2 seconds. So a prime, b prime, all the values and response are shown here. Okay, so we will just first explain it, then we will go. So we will just have a CLC clear again, and then clear all. So I think there would be nothing in the workspace, it should be empty. Yeah, let's start again. So here CLC, that is a clear the screen and clear all. So clear all is a command to clear all the data from the workspace also. So now E is the earthquake data. So it will have a command text read is1893 code.txt. So we are having an earthquake ground acceleration and we have given a name to it. this, and that file extension is txt. So we are giving the command to the MATLAB that text read, and it is reading that data and store in e value. So, and the time history, the time duration we are taking for the 80 seconds for that ground acceleration, so up to 80 seconds. So we are discretizing it with 0.02 seconds. So dt we can say here is 0.02, and that is here t2 minus t1. So we can see control x, and we can keep here control v. So t2 minus t1 is here, that data. So just a minute, just after it we are placing it. Okay, now we are having the tr time history. We are just making a symbol, that small t representing that time history. And now we can see that what this discretization shows. So let's see this. You can run it only, value at the selection. So it is giving the value, that is discretized value at 0.02 seconds each, 73.10, 73.12. So 0.02, if we just subtract it, so delta ti is ti plus 1 minus ti, so it would be 0.02 seconds each. So it is going up to 80 seconds. So we have just made that, and that small t described it, and dt is 0.02 seconds. Now t equals to, that is the time period here, and this is the small t is the time duration for the earthquake, and capital T is the time period of the structure for which we are applying the ground acceleration. So t is the period that should be kept in mind, capital T. So xi is 0.02 value, means 2% damping we are considering, and mass we are considering as 1, and omega n, that is the natural frequency, we know 2 pi by t, capital T, which is the time period. So we are getting the natural frequency of the structure as this, and stiffness, that is capital K, is omega n square. So, and we are replacing that capital K with a small k, so it will take the value as this. Omega n we are just representing here as omega n with wn, and omega d as wd, that is omega n underscore under root 1 minus xi square, and we are just making a shortcut to a square root of this value, that sq is the shortcut, and ep is the exponential of minus xi omega n dt, and si is the sine omega dt, and co is cos omega dt. We are just having these all data, and now we know a is, as we have seen there, that a value was ep into xi by sq square root of that value into psi plus co. B C D A P, that is the a prime, b prime, c prime, and d prime. We have seen all that values from the last slide, and these values are known to us, and u is nothing but zeros of length of e comma 1 a column vector, and v, that is the velocity, is also that, and initial condition is given that the initial displacement is also 0, and initial velocity is 0, or we can consider, if suppose if we are considering the initial velocity as 1, let's see, so it may be 1. So now u of 1 means the first value stored here in this would be u1, that would be u0, and v1 would be v0, and it would execute up to, for I equals to 1 is to length of e minus 1. So I1, then u of I plus 1, 1 plus 1, u2. So it will calculate u2. U1 is known to us, we have just seen here, u1 is known to us, and e1 is also known to us, earthquake data is known to us, and uh, earthquake data of second value, that is p of I plus 1, which we are telling in the slides, that is e of I plus 1, same here, so that's also known to us. So all the values are known, so we can know for I equals to 1, that u2 and v2 we will know, then again the second loop will act, and I would becomes 2, and then u3 and v3 will known, and then this become u2 v2. Similarly, again and again the loop will run and we will get all the data, and it would get stored here, which we have made an empty matrix here, u and v. So those data would get stored and we can plot here. So plot of the response of both, we can say control c, we will have control v. So we can see, we can give data v, and also it is figure 1 is for the displacement, and figure 2 would be for velocity. And then we will run. Let's see what is the time period we are giving 1. So we can see here, this is the response. So the first response is the displacement. This is the displacement response of the structure or the building, and this is the velocity response of the building. That building will have the velocity vibration in this manner, and the displacement would be in like this. So mainly when we used to design our building, we are interested to find the maximum displacement, maximum peak. So which would be the maximum peak? I think this may be the maximum peak here. Okay, so that is 34.85, and here we can see minus 33.85. So 34.85 is the maximum peak, so we can say that this is the maximum value. So we are interested in the maximum value. Okay, so we can just have a command here also. So we can see maximum of, if we want to find, suppose let's have a name b1 equals to maximum of u. Let's see, that's 35.2339. So that would be the maximum value. So we are interested in this, it may be in mm or in unit. So maximum displacement would be this much. So we want to design our structure for the maximum displacement of this. So for this ground acceleration, the maximum peak displacement would be this much. Similarly, we can say that b2, let's see, that we are having of maximum of v. So let's see what's the, and the maximum velocity would be in this unit, 231.58 magnitude. So if we are checking for the maximum velocity, then it would be this value. So we are mainly interested in the maximum values. So for this 1 second structure, 1 second time period of this building, we got the values at like this is the maximum values for this. And the response, we have seen that how the vibrations was there. So we have seen the vibrations of the building. That building will vibrate to and fro, and it is a negative and positive sign, means showing that it will just move left and right, to and fro motion, and oscillate like this. So this is the response of the, this is called the response of the structure or building. So this is the displacement response. So thank you.